You know that moment when you're watching a show and something just clicks, and not in a good way? Like suddenly all the smiles, the family dinners, the we love each other equally lines feel forced, like someone's holding it all together with duct tape and denial. That's exactly what it felt like watching Sister Wives over the years. At first, it was sold to us as a brave, unconventional love story, but now, years later, it looks more like a slow motion collapse, held together by ego, favoritism, and choices that never quite made sense. Hey friends, welcome back to TLC's Sister Wives Secret. I'm Aliva, and today we're pulling back the curtain on what really tore this family apart. Not the haters, not the law, not even religion. No, this is a story about emotional chaos, decisions masked as faith, and the painful truth that sometimes love can't fix dysfunction when it's rooted in denial. If you've ever watched an episode and felt something was off, you're not crazy. And you're not alone. This is the truth they tried to scrub, but we're laying it out piece by piece. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and tell me in the comments, when did you first realize this family wasn't going to make it? Back when Sister Wives first premiered, it was presented as something hopeful. This wasn't just a show, it felt like a mission. Kody Brown and his wives told us they were redefining love. Four adults building a family on faith, communication, and mutual respect. We were told again and again, this lifestyle wasn't about dominance or control, it was about choice. They called it the principle, a higher calling to live in plural marriage. And they promised it worked because they were all equal partners. But if you watched closely from the very beginning, something about that promise didn't sit quite right. In season 1, everything was painted with this almost too perfect brush. Kody rushing between homes, trying to be fair, the wives smiling through awkward conversations. The kids seemed adjusted, like they were used to navigating a world with multiple moms. Even the jealousy was downplayed. It happens, they'd say, but we work through it. It felt tight-knit, even charming at times. But the more we watched, the more the gaps started to show. When Robyn entered the family, the entire tone shifted. From the engagement to the wedding prep, it was clear this wasn't just another wife. Robyn got the fairy tale, a white dress, Kody breaking tradition and kissing her during the ceremony, a professionally filmed first dance. Meanwhile, Christine had to give birth the day after Kody announced the engagement. That wasn't timing, it was telling. Christine was left in a hospital bed while Kody chased a new love story. For a family built on equality, this felt like the start of something very unequal. Then came the move to Las Vegas, 4 houses on a cul-de-sac, framed as a fresh start. This will bring us closer, Kody said. But the opposite happened. Each wife had her own space, her own kitchen, her own front door, and slowly, her own life. There were fewer family gatherings, less emotional connection, more confessional clips with frustration hidden behind tight smiles. It looked like unity on paper, but on screen it felt distant. What they sold as harmony was really everyone tiptoeing around deeper problems. And whether they admitted it or not, the family had already started slipping apart. One decision, one disappointment, one lonely house at a time. As the seasons rolled on, the illusion of equality started to crumble, and at the center of that shift were 2 people, Kody and Robyn. What started as a new chapter in season 1 quickly morphed into a total rearrangement of the family's dynamic. The way Kody lit up around Robyn, the way she was treated compared to the others, it stopped being subtle. The favoritism was right there, episode after episode. And the other wives saw it. So did we. Think back to Robyn's wedding. Unlike Meri, Janelle, and Christine, who all had modest, quiet ceremonies, Robyn got the full production. The dress, the cake, the first kiss, and that slow dance at the reception. Kody even helped pick out her dress, which none of the other wives had experienced. You could see the discomfort in Christine's face. She later admitted in a confessional that it felt like her own wedding had been dismissed. And when Kody kissed Robyn before the ceremony even started, breaking their own so-called courtship rules, it was like he wasn't even trying to pretend anymore. But it didn't stop there. Over time, Robyn's needs always seemed to take priority. In season 6, when the family planned to buy homes in Las Vegas, Robyn's house was the first to be secured, and it just so happened to be the one closest to Kody's. While the other wives were dealing with loan issues and delays, Robyn's move was smooth, fast, and well supported. Now, viewers were told Robyn came from a hard past. She talked openly about her first marriage, calling her ex-husband abusive, unreliable, and emotionally damaging. She painted herself as a survivor, someone broken but healing. But as the seasons unfolded, that story started to feel incomplete. It's not about disbelieving someone's trauma, but the way her version became the only version raised eyebrows. Robyn never took responsibility for how her past choices affected her kids or how jumping into a plural family impacted everyone else. Christine especially struggled with this. In later seasons, she revealed that when Robyn joined, she suddenly felt like the basement wife, unwanted and unseen. Kody wasn't hiding his preferences anymore. He spent most of his nights with Robyn, rarely visited the other homes, and slowly stopped making an effort with Meri, Janelle, and Christine. Even during COVID, when he made those extreme house rules, he openly admitted that he was only staying with Robyn's household full-time. Everyone else was expected to fall in line or face distance. That wasn't a partnership. That was control, masked as caution. The favoritism wasn't just unfair, it became destructive. Robyn didn't just become the fourth wife. She became the wife, the center of Kody's orbit. And once that happened, the rest of the family was left spinning further and further away. One of the biggest illusions the Browns tried to maintain, right up there with love and unity, was stability. Financial stability, emotional security, spiritual direction. But underneath all the lofty talk about faith and God's plan, the truth was way messier, especially when it came to money. Let's rewind to the Las Vegas years. Kody made a huge deal about those homes. 4 big houses all lined up in a cul-de-sac, meant to keep the family together but separate. On paper, it sounded like a fresh start, a way to rebuild. But just a few seasons later, they were already bailing out. In season 13, the Flagstaff move was framed as divine inspiration. Kody told the family they had to follow what felt right. He pushed hard, claiming the spirit had moved him. But here's what that really looked like. They listed the Vegas homes at inflated prices, well above market value. The homes sat unsold for months. Christine's house alone lost over $100,000 from the original list price to what it actually sold for. They didn't just lose money. They lost time. They lost options. And they lost each other. Financial strain bled into every corner of the show. Kody was constantly talking about building one massive home on Coyote Pass, this big, symbolic house that would somehow restore unity. But even that was a fantasy. No blueprints, no permits, no real plan, just drawings, arguments, and tension. Meanwhile, Robyn rented a home that cost over $3,500 a month, while Janelle had to live in an RV just to stay near the land. That's not faith, that's dysfunction dressed up as vision. And then there's Sister Wives Closet, the infamous jewelry business they launched as a family project. Robyn insisted it was a passion, a mission. But from the jump, it felt off. The website was clunky, the jewelry was overpriced, and the branding confusing at best. This was a family struggling to stay afloat, trying to market luxury with a reality TV budget. The whole thing fizzled, quietly, embarrassingly. Meri's bed and breakfast followed the same pattern. She begged the family for support, got pushback, then charged ridiculous rates once it opened. A charming idea maybe, but not one grounded in the real world. These weren't ventures, they were distractions. Desperate attempts to create something that looked like purpose. But underneath, it was all slipping. They weren't following faith, they were following fantasy, and every financial step they took made the cracks wider, until there was no illusion left to hold on to. While Kody was busy preaching about unity and divine direction, the people feeling the fallout the hardest weren't the wives, they were the kids. And if there's anything that proves this family wasn't built on the solid ground they claimed, it's what happened to the children, especially during the pandemic, especially to Garrison. In the earlier seasons, it felt like the kids were the glue holding the Browns together. We saw them laughing in shared backyards, celebrating birthdays, supporting each other. It wasn't perfect, but there was heart. There was connection. But somewhere along the way, that faded. And by the time COVID hit, it was gone. During the pandemic, Kody's so called protective rules were the final wedge that split the family. He imposed extreme restrictions, rules that even the CDC didn't require, all in the name of safety. But really, it was about control. And somehow, Robyn's house was the only one he considered safe. He stayed there full time. The other wives, they were on their own. The kids, left behind. Garrison, Gabe, and others wanted normalcy. They wanted contact. But Kody refused. He demanded they choose, isolate completely or lose access to their father. Garrison chose his sanity, and in return, he lost Kody. You could see the emotional toll eating away at him in those later episodes. Garrison, who had been confident, outspoken, full of life, he started looking closed off, quieter. He tried to keep it together for the cameras, but it was obvious. The hurt was there, the rejection. All because he wanted to keep his job, see friends, and live like a young adult instead of being held hostage by rules no one else had to follow. And then there was the graduation pressure. Kody used it as a dramatic reason for uprooting the family. If we don't move now, we'll miss another graduation. But what did that move really do? They didn't just miss graduations, they missed everything. The homes in Vegas were sold off, the kids were scattered, and that once tight group was emotionally gutted. Years later, when fans went back to rewatch the episodes, the pain hit even harder. Seeing Garrison catch the garter at Maddie's wedding, he was smiling, hopeful, full of love. It was impossible to watch now without feeling that lump in your throat. Because we know what happened. We know that hope was crushed. We know that spark dimmed. And now Garrison's gone. The show doesn't show every tear, but we saw enough. Enough to know that Kody's choices, his favoritism, his rigid rules, his absence, weren't just hurtful. They were damaging. Garrison deserved better. All the kids did. No family is perfect. But this wasn't imperfection. It was emotional neglect disguised as leadership. And no amount of "God told me to" can justify how many hearts got broken along the way. One of the longest-running stories the Browns leaned on was the claim that they had to flee Utah, that their hand was forced by threats of prosecution. It was dramatic. It made for great TV. Kody packed his wives and kids like they were escaping under the cover of night, treating it as if they were the last free polygamists left in America. But the truth? It's a lot murkier and a lot more performative than they'd like to admit. In those early seasons, they built the persecution narrative brick by brick. Kody often talked about how going public had made them targets. They said Utah's laws made it impossible to live their truth. But here's the thing. While the Browns were crying foul on national television, other polygamist families were still quietly living in Utah, peacefully, openly. They weren't being raided or chased out. They just weren't putting cameras in their homes and selling books about their bravery. The reality is, Utah wasn't staging witch hunts. The state hadn't pursued a felony bigamy case in decades unless it involved abuse or forced marriage. The Browns weren't fugitives. They were reality TV stars creating a compelling exit storyline. And then came the lawsuit, their attempt to challenge Utah's bigamy law. It grabbed headlines, but even that fell apart. Dismissed. No landmark victory, no real resolution, just more headlines, more attention, more playing the victim. What they called persecution was in many ways a storyline, a justification for pulling their kids from school, uprooting their lives, and chasing a new chapter that, frankly, never delivered what was promised. They weren't pushed out, they walked. And somewhere along the way, that false sense of being hunted became part of their identity. But you can only cry wolf for so long. Eventually, the audience starts looking past the tears and starts asking real questions. The Brown story isn't a fairy tale. It's not one of unbreakable love or unwavering unity. What it is, though, is a cautionary tale. A heartbreaking saga where ego, denial, and performative victimhood stripped away everything that mattered: the love, the trust, the family. The reality of their journey has been wrapped in illusions. Illusions they sold to the world and, sadly, to themselves. Watching them fall apart piece by piece isn't just frustrating, it's gut wrenching. The chaos, the hurt, the missed chances, it's a real, raw reminder of what happens when we let our egos take the wheel, when we prioritize image over connection. It's heartbreaking because they could have had it all. They could have been a family, truly. But instead, they chased a narrative, an image that wasn't real. And the damage left behind? It's visible in every broken relationship, every kid forced to grow up too fast. So, what do you think? How do you feel about the Browns' story now? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts. This is TLC's Sister Wives Secret, and I'll see you in the next one.